I'm Chef Cass from Greystone Racket Club. Today I'm going to make potato pancakes and a pork potato cabbage stew with Guinness beer. So the first thing I'm going to do is peel the potatoes and boil them for the potato pancakes. You're basically just going to make a mashed potato and then you're going to add your ingredients at the end. So I'm just cutting the potatoes, put in the cold water, cold salted water is how you want to start your mashed potatoes. When you use cold water, it prevents your mash from becoming too starchy. So again, we're going to use cold water. For the stew, we're going to have ground pork, corn, peas, mushrooms, onions, cabbage, carrots, and Guinness. First, we're going to start with the pork. This is about a pound of ground pork. So we're going to season that with allspice, maybe just a pinch. You don't want to add too much allspice; it will be very overpowering and kind of ruin what you're trying to do with it. Good amount of salt and cracked pepper. So I'm going to mix that, incorporate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sear a little bit in a pan and then try it to see if I've seasoned it enough, to see if it needs any more allspice, salt, or pepper. So I've just rolled it into like a little patty. Sear it. Yeah. Alright, that's perfect. Now I'm going to prep the vegetables for the stew. We're going to start with, I'm probably only going to use half this onion. I'm going to do a kind of a medium dice. The stew can be very hearty and have big cut vegetables. In Ireland, they're all about their meat and potatoes and their hearty stews, so you don't really have to focus on making a small cut on your vegetables. Cut along the lines here, but not every single line because I don't want the cuts too small. Next I'm going to add garlic. So I just smash it. Whoops. Lost one. Now we're going to just dice that up. This isn't going to be a fancy pretty stew. It doesn't need to be. Everything's nice, rough chop. All that matters is that flavor. Have some cremini mushrooms. Again, you don't need to be too focused on the chop. You can do nice and big chops. I'm going to do it in quarters. Right. Good. So the reason I have separated all the ingredients in their own little containers is because when I do build the soup, I'm going to do it in steps. So anytime you build a soup or a sauce, you want to put all of your vegetables in layers. So generally you want to start with your protein, which I'm going to start with the pork, and then you want to do your onions, and then your garlic, and then your other vegetables. And that will really bring out all the flavor of each individual vegetable in your stew. So I've already quartered a cabbage. You want to quarter it because it's a lot easier to work with than this big, huge cabbage. And I'm only going to use probably this much for the amount of stew we're doing. So you want to just take the leaves off. And again, we're going to do big, thick cuts. So I'm just going to like so, and then in cubes. Rutabaga, you can use a peeler or a knife. I like using top of potato pancakes, we're also going to do braised cabbage and pork belly. So I'm going to do a nice thin cut on the braised cabbage and then a nice thick cut on the braised pork belly. Cook that down with some brown sugar to give it some sweetness. Belly, just going to cut it in strips. What I'm going to do is I'm going to roll these into some little patties, just like I did for the sample. I'm going to sear them in the pot and then take them all out, and then that's when I'm going to start my vegetables. And again, I'm going to build the flavor. Sound down, right? So you don't want to overcrowd your pot. So I'm only dropping a little bit at a time. Then I'm going to. So I don't want to overcrowd the pot. So I'm only adding a little bit at a time. And then I'm going to flip them, and then I'm actually going to take them out. First, I'm going to add my onions. And then I'm going to add my garlic, then my mushrooms, carrots, cabbage, corn, and peas. And then I'm going to make a roux with butter and flour, just to thicken it a little bit. So using the same pot that I had seared the pork in, we're going to keep that pork fat and those little bits in there, because that will really bring out all the flavor. Also strained my potatoes and put them back in the hot pot. It took about 20 minutes at this size cut of potatoes. So I'm just going to mash the potatoes. They don't have to be super fine like a mashed potato, just broken up. You can use a potato masher. Right now all I have is a whisk, so that's what I'm using. Before I add the butter, just a couple tablespoons. Couple tablespoons of flour. Got our flour incorporated. Now you have to work fast because you don't want the flour to burn. So now we're going to add our peas, our corn, our cabbage, throw in some potatoes. Irish stew, you have to have potatoes. Okay, so this is perfect. So I'm going to deglaze my pan with the vegetable stock. That will get all the flavor off the bottom of the pan. A nice stir. Then we're going to put our pork back in with the juices. Last but not least, you're going to add your guinness. Right there. So this is going to sit for 30-45 minutes or until the rutabaga and the potatoes are cooked. You want to cut all your vegetables at pretty much the same size so they all cook at the same time. So we're just going to let that stew while I start the potato pancakes. Starting the potato pancakes, I added a little bit of butter when I mashed it up. And then I'm going to add flour and egg. So for now, I'm just going to add 1 egg and a couple tablespoons of flour. You don't want to work it too much because then the pancakes will be kind of gummy. And you just want to add enough flour and egg so it holds a shape. We're also going to add a little bit more salt and a little bit of pepper. Add just a little bit more flour. Just want it to form. That's good right there. And it's okay if your mash is a little chunky. It doesn't need to be completely smooth. So you basically want to make this shape. Next, I'm going to do the pork belly and braised cabbage. That will go on top of the potato pancakes. So I'm just going to let that cook down. And then once it's cooked down a little bit more, I'm going to add brown sugar and a little bit of vinegar. Just added some brown sugar, a couple tablespoons. I'm going to deglaze with vinegar. You can use apple cider vinegar, white wine vinegar, it doesn't matter. And just let that cook down. Add some vinegar. You can use apple cider vinegar, white wine vinegar. Those are probably the best two to use. And then you're just going to let that cook down. Next, I'm going to sear the pancakes. You want to get your pan really, really hot. Like that. cabbage and the pork belly as well. Then we're just gonna add a little bit of green onions. And then there we have it, potato pancakes with braised cabbage and pork belly. Okay, so we've allowed our stew to cook down for about 40 minutes. Here it is here, so we're just going to plate it. Lots of potatoes, lots of pork, just like the Irish like it. Thank you for watching from Underground Flavor Group. Happy St. Patty's Day.